Hello everyone. Today, we have an interesting story that will not only entertain you, but also teach us some useful English words and sentence structures. By the end of this story, we will learn how even a lazy person can overcome their bad habits and work harder, achieving success in unexpected ways. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this story. Once upon a time, in a small little village nestled at the edge of a vast countryside, there lived a young boy named Abrar. He lived with his parents in a modest house surrounded by beautiful fields. Abrar's father was a hard-working farmer, while his mother kept the house and looked after the family. But there was one thing about Abrar that everyone knew: he was incredibly lazy. While most children worked hard to help their parents, Abrar would always look for shortcuts. His daily task was to help his father by protecting the rice crops from the birds. While other farmers used sticks or slingshots to scare off the birds, Abrar didn't want to move too much. Instead, he came up with a clever idea. He built wooden poles and connected them with ropes across the field. This way, he could lie down in the shade and pull the ropes to scare away the birds, all without having to get up. He called it the lazy way of working. His father was worried about Abrar's laziness. He often thought, "What will happen if I fall sick one day? How will Abrar take care of everything?" But since Abrar managed to finish his job, even if in a roundabout way, his father never scolded him. One summer, the village faced a severe dry season. The crops needed more water, but Abrar's father fell ill and was bedridden for several weeks. Abrar found himself alone, responsible for taking care of the entire field. At first, he tried his best, but he was simply not used to hard work. The days passed, and despite his efforts, the rice crops started to wither. The lack of water and Abrar's inexperience led to disaster, and soon, the fields were in danger of being lost completely. One evening, as Abrar sat under the stars, feeling overwhelmed by guilt and disappointment, he thought to himself, "Why didn't I ever try harder? Now, my family's hopes are gone." He felt useless and defeated. The very next morning, as Abrar was walking through the village, he heard excited chatter. People were gathered near the town square, talking about a big announcement. A soldier from the king's palace had arrived, declaring that a grand competition was about to take place. The winner of the competition would receive a chest of gold as a prize, enough money to change anyone's life. Abrar immediately saw this as an opportunity to save his family. Without thinking much, he announced that he would participate in the competition. The villagers laughed at him. They said, "How can a lazy boy like Abrar ever win against strong, fit competitors?" But Abrar was determined. He didn't care what they thought. He was ready to prove them wrong. With only 3 days to get to the king's palace, Abrar packed his things and set off early the next morning. His parents didn't believe he would win, but they secretly hoped that the competition would push him to work harder and maybe change his lazy ways. After 3 days of travel, Abrar finally arrived at the palace. On the morning of the competition, all the contestants gathered near a large lake. Many of them were strong, muscular, and fit, making Abrar feel very nervous. He wondered, how can I, someone so lazy, compete with these people? But then the rules were announced. The challenge was to cross the lake, and the first 3 people to finish would move on to the next round. Everyone quickly jumped into the lake, swimming as fast as they could. But Abrar, who wasn't a strong swimmer, stayed behind and thought about his next move. I may not be strong like them, he said to himself, but maybe I can be smarter. Abrar ran into a nearby forest, where he found some broken branches and pieces of wood. He quickly put together a small raft, using another stick as a paddle. This is a race to cross the lake, not a swimming race, he thought. I don't need to swim if I can find a way to float. As the other competitors struggled in the water, Abrar paddled steadily across the lake. He was slow but steady, and he passed many swimmers who were growing tired. In the end, Abrar was the 3rd person to finish, qualifying for the next round. The next day, the final round of the competition began. Each contestant was given a large, heavy wooden block. Their task was to push the block 1 kilometer to the finish line. Behind them were several tools they could use, but they could only pick one. The first contestant grabbed a rope and immediately began pulling the block. The second contestant picked up a piece of wood, planning to use it as a lever to move the block. Abrar, however, didn't rush into picking a tool. He stood there for a moment, thinking carefully. I can't win this with muscle alone, he thought. I need to think smarter. After a while, Abrar made his choice. He picked up a small knife, and the crowd was confused. How will a knife help him move that heavy block? They whispered. But Abrar had a plan. Instead of trying to push the block, he began carving it. He carefully shaped the block into a round ball. As the minutes ticked by, Abrar worked steadily, cutting and shaping the wood with precision. After an hour, he was done. Now, instead of a massive block, Abrar had a smooth wooden ball. The other contestants were still struggling with their heavy blocks, while Abrar pushed his ball down the road with ease. His speed increased as he rolled the ball, and with all his strength and determination, Abrar was the first to cross the finish line. The crowd erupted in cheers, stunned by his cleverness. Abrar, the lazy boy, had outwitted all the strong competitors with his intelligence and creativity. No one had expected him to win, but he had proven that even someone who seemed lazy could achieve great things, if they found the right motivation. Abrar's story teaches us an important lesson. Sometimes, laziness can hide a clever mind, but without a big reason to push us forward, we may never realize our full potential. For Abrar, the love for his family and the desire to save them was the reason that drove him to work harder than ever before. So, if you ever find yourself feeling lazy, remember that you can achieve anything if you have a strong enough reason. Whether it's for your family, your dreams, or proving others wrong, a clear goal can inspire you to give your best. Today, we also learned some new words and how to use them in sentences. As we listened to the story, we practiced using words like determination, motivation, carve, raft, float, and smart. Remember, learning English is easier when you practice regularly, and stories like this one make it fun. Thank you for joining us today. Keep listening, learning, and growing, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. See you next time.